Boy, it's been busy. I just got back from an overnight trip to take my mother-in-law home. We have had a house full of people for a week. We were feeding breakfast, lunch, and dinner from anywhere starting at 21 to 36 people every day, or almost every day. Some days were lighter. But I just got back, and today the thing I need to do is meal prep for the coming week. Today's Wednesday. I meal prepped ahead of the holiday schedule so that it would be much easier, and it was. There were absolutely endless dishes and endless messes and endless stuff, as I'm sure you can relate to. But because I had a great deal of meal prep done ahead of time, we were in pretty good shape for all of these big meals that we did. For many people, we did everything from sourdough waffles and French creamed eggs for breakfast to brined roasted turkey and roasted lamb and fresh ham for our biggest meals. And it was wonderful. And while I was busy constantly in the kitchen, I was not nervous, stressful, or fretting because I had so much of the prep done ahead. So now here it is Wednesday, January 3rd, and I'm thinking about the next week. I would normally have started what I'm doing today, maybe on Monday or even Saturday. But because we've had company up until yesterday when I took Grandma home, I have not done any meal prep. So I'm doing it now, and I want to show you all of the things that I do that I know you can do also to make life so much easier and less stressful in your endeavors to feed your own selves and your family well. Now, we do not eat cereal. So when I talk about meal prep, I'm even thinking breakfast. Breakfast for us is usually pretty simple. It's omelets, or it's French creamed eggs, or scrambled eggs, or just plain fried eggs. And the kids will have a piece of sourdough toast or something like that. And then two of the adults in the household who work full time make themselves sandwiches on good bread with homemade mayonnaise, and maybe they take a salad with homemade salad dressing. So their lunches are pretty simple and easy to pack. For my husband, I'm packing him wraps like the siete almond tortillas with homemade mayonnaise and meats and cheeses. And I make him smoothies a couple times a week. So even his lunches are fairly simple. I always keep the chicken stock on hand so I can give him stock most mornings. We're getting back in the habit of that because it's so needed to help to stay healthy and to heal when you've got a damaged gut, as he does. So I came home from New Jersey this morning, well, from across the Delaware and Pennsylvania, but I had breakfast with my mother-in-law at Frenchtown Cafe in Frenchtown, New Jersey. And that was wonderful. But here I am now home, having made a stop to pick up some of my basic supplies. So before we get rolling, I want to talk about the first step of meal prep, and that is to make sure that you have everything you need. For me, that always includes carrots, lots of onions, which I'll pop into my onion basket here, and garlic. Here's another 3-pack of garlic. I still have a little left from last week. I use ginger a lot, so I got some good ginger. And I'm going to use cilantro in my mayo today, so I bought a bunch of cilantro. And ignore that, yes, I got cream, and it's not organic because they were out. But we cannot go without our cream in our tea and our coffee, so here we go. Put that away. And meanwhile, I'll grab some of the things from the fridge that I make sure never to be without. Raw milk and stock. This is my last quart of chicken stock. So today, one of the things that we will be starting with is we're going to make some chicken stock. But here we go. We'll set this aside for the moment. So I've got my onions, my carrots, my celery, my garlic. Here's my celery. It's really packed in my bag. Somehow I'll get it out of here. I'm sure of it. Eventually. How did it get so packed in there? There we go. Celery. Okay. God's Good table bags, by the way. Our tote bags are $16, and I love using mine because it's really cute. Okay, I'm going to put that aside. And while you can see this stuff, of course, there's good olive oil. Always good olive oil. But let's go over here to the stove area so I can show you some basic things that I always keep on hand. Oh my. I really have been gone and not on top of it. So I need my butter. I need my butter out. And I need to refill my salt. But that may wait. That can wait. We have enough salt for now. See, I keep a little spinny tray here that has, I hope you can see it okay. It has coarse salt. It has, I keep just enough black pepper that it doesn't oxidize too much. I always keep my ground salt. And this is what I'm missing. My butter. We always have butter and ghee and olive oil and more garlic. But I want to show you, this is a little sloppy. My kids cleaned up last night. Other staples at my house are going to always include ghee, Fairchild's vinegar, the best organic apple cider vinegar. It's 6% instead of diluted to 4%. So this is good vinegar. I always make sure I have good real soy sauce, something that's actually fermented, not just I don't know how they make it a Kikkoman, but it's not the right way. I also keep Trader Joe's brand on hand because it's actually made the right way and it's not expensive at all. But I want to talk about some of the things that I keep on hand for herbs and spices. My basic ones, see my cabinet, it is messy. It is definitely messy. But it has some really important things. It's messy because I use it constantly. I always have pluck seasoning. Now this is pluck unseasoning. It's just the pure organ meat that's dehydrated. And I put this in soups and stews. I need to order more pluck. So that's normally in this cabinet. But one of the things that I keep constantly, and I just love, and we haven't talked enough about, are the Dr. Cowan's Garden vegetable powders. They're amazing for two reasons. One is going to be flavor, and the other is nutrition. So my favorite is Threefold Blend Savory. This is a mixture of savory vegetables, and I didn't think about needing to be able to read, so I don't have my strong glasses on. But these are savory vegetables. All of the Dr. Cowan's Garden products are either biodynamically raised, which means way beyond organic, very high nutrition, or wild harvested. So I keep the leek powder, the savory blend, as I said, because that's my favorite. I actually have 2 leek powders. That was an accident. This jar says Threefold Savory, but it actually holds red beet powder from Dr. Cowan's Garden, which I love. And then I have a little bit of wild ramp left. I use these to add more nutrition to soups and stews and just about anything that I cook that is of a savory nature. But it's either teaspoon or tablespoon. I know that's a big difference. Erin will qualify that in the comment or in the notes rather. But either 1 teaspoon or I think 1 tablespoon of powder is equal to an entire day's worth of vegetables. And again, these are beyond organic, way beyond organic, because they're biodynamic or wild crafted. So I keep those on hand always to go into whatever I'm making for the week or during the week. I also have several of the Redmond seasoning products. I like the taco seasoning. I've got the Wasatch steak, and I think somebody used up my most favorite of all. Let me see if I can find it. Maybe it's here. And I have to pull these out anyway. There it is. The organic lemon pepper. I also really, really like to use the Redmond Real Salt organic garlic salt. It just adds a tremendous flavor to a lot of dishes. But this is pretty basic for me. Instead of just regular lemon pepper from the store, Redmond Real Salt lemon pepper is clean and it's really good. I use it a lot on things, especially like chicken. Okay. But basic herbs beyond that I always have. They grow outside on my deck. I actually can go out and harvest some of these now, but I keep them inside as well. So thyme. This is good thyme. I go through a bottle of this about once a month. So I buy all of my herbs and spices in bulk and I just refill monthly. Thyme is the most basic along with bay leaves. So definitely make sure you have thyme and bay leaves. But then I keep things like ground mace. I do have garlic powder, and it's not that I'm using it in cooking, but I will use it to make rubs. That's mostly it. Like I'll make a pork rub, or if I just think something needs a little extra oomph of garlic, I'll toss in a little bit of that too. And then I have basil and oregano and rosemary and, all of those good things. I keep chili powder and smoked paprika and cayenne pepper. I like smoked paprika even more. Anyway, basically, if I could only choose 4, and I'm just throwing a number out there, if I could only choose 4 dried herbs or spices, they would absolutely be thyme, bay leaves, smoked paprika, and maybe chili powder. I don't know. Oregano, and I like to use marjoram a lot as well. But, at least have those 4 plus plenty of good real whole salt. Redmond's Real Salt, or that's our favorite around here, but also Celtic sea salt. We like that one as well. So one or the other, but we use a lot of Redmond here, and I really like Redmond. Okay, so we've got, again, our organic apple cider vinegar, but let me put away my tamari. I also always keep on hand a couple of other good vinegars. This is exceptional. This isn't a standard, but I do like to have it. This is a champagne vinegar, and it's a raw with the mother. But I always try to keep rice wine vinegar because I do like to cook some Asian foods. And balsamic vinegar, a decent balsamic. Most balsamic vinegar, including that at Costco with the Costco brand, it's not real balsamic vinegar. It's not the real thing. The real thing is much more deep, has a much richer, deeper flavor. And I'll use that just on salads and maybe sprinkle a little on roasted Brussels sprouts or something like that. So a few good vinegars. I actually have more than that in there, but I am going to keep out the white wine vinegar actually, because I'm going to use that in just a little bit. So, okay, I'm going to leave the ghee out and put most of this away. Well, I'm going to put it away in a moment because I can't really lift with that arm. Okay. I'll put these aside. Now, we're going to come back to putting things away. It's going to be messy. I do clean up as I go, but I am a messy cook. Now, another part of meal prepping that is really critically important is a good knife or two. So here's my Nakiri. And this is absolutely my most favorite knife. I've used it many times in videos and you've heard me talk about it. I keep the Nakiri But I also keep a good paring knife. I don't have a wingman today, so I'm trying to, do this maneuvering of the camera myself. So it's a little awkward because it's backwards. Anyway, I keep a good paring knife, but I also just have a really good standard utilitarian chef's knife. And this is not an expensive knife. I mean, it's more than your $5 or $10 knife, but it's also a lot better quality. So I keep the knife on hand, and I have only wooden cutting boards. I absolutely refuse to use acrylic or glass. People think that they're better because they can be washed more cleanly and that they won't harbor bacteria, but in fact, that's wrong. You want a good wooden cutting board that is easier, much easier on the edges of your knives, but wood also naturally repels bacterial growth. So, hey, go back to nature and you'll usually find that you're in better shape. The other thing that I always keep on hand is a good knife sharpener. Now, I filmed a knife skills course, and I don't know if we ever put that up or not. In that course, I show you how to use a stone, a sharpening stone, and I like that, and I do it a lot. But recently, somebody that I knew who actually makes knives from scratch, he showed me this knife, sharpener rather, and I bought it, and I like it better than any of the half dozen others that I've ever tried. And I'm going to show you quickly how to use it, because it is very important that you keep your knife sharp, or you may cut yourself because of exerting too much pressure to cut into an onion, for instance. But it also makes much quicker work of prep. So I'm going to put my phone down, and I'm going to show you just quickly because I really like this. We will put a link to this sharpener in the show notes also. I think this is Workhorse or something. I don't remember the company's name. I watched a bunch of their videos before I decided it was worth ordering more, and I actually ordered some as gifts. So it actually has angled guides to help you angle the knife correctly. And some of you, if I do this right now, you're going to say, no, you're not doing that right. Well, actually, I am, because I watched their videos and they all had an opinion on how you should sharpen a knife. And they tested the opinions out, and this is what they came to as the best. So at least once a week, if not every other week, I'm starting on the coarse side of this sharpener, and I'm just going back and forth a few times. And again, I'm using this little guide for my angle. And then I'm going to the fine side, doing the same thing. If your knife is really dull, it's going to take more than just a few passes. And then this is one of those things where, do you hone first or do you hone last? I hone just about last because they recommended that. So this has a triangular honing ceramic. That honing steel that comes with knife sets, most people think it's for sharpening. It doesn't sharpen anything, but it does straighten the blade, which makes it much more efficient to sharpen the knife. So you want to do it before you sharpen rather than after you sharpen. Excuse me. Yes, you can use that honing steel beforehand, but then the ceramic on here straightens everything back out, and then the leather strap polishes the edge. Excuse me, I have a tickle. So sharp knives, a good wooden cutting board, and then all of the supplies that we've already talked about it. And I will probably add a few, I don't know, as we go along. But the first thing that I want to show you to do is the mirepoix that I talk about so often. Let me see if I can raise this up a little bit, make it a little bit easier to see. I don't know. Mirepoix is 2 parts onion, 1 part each carrots and celery. And I just give these a rinse. I use a lot of mirepoix because it is a base for almost anything that you would want to do. You can just toss it in the pan with eggs, and you can toss it in a pan with stock and with meat, and you can use it to make sauces. It is just a very basic, easy to prep thing. So I'm going to rinse these quickly. I'm going to make a fairly small batch for me. The amount of cooking that I do, oh man, I go through this. I go through at least a quart every week. Now, all I had to do was rinse these and I cut the tops. All right. Then I'm going to take my celery. I like that from spring until fall, I have lovage or cutting celery outside on my deck. And so I cut it fresh. But right now, being January, I do not have that. So with this, I am just going to slice off the bottoms. And you know, I'm always starting with good, fresh, organic produce, with the exception of the celery because Aldi was out of organic celery. So today, I've just got regular old celery. And then my onions. I'm going to use 4 medium-sized onions. Actually, I'm going to do more than that, aren't I? Yes, I am. I'm going to do 1 large and 3 small. We're talking volume when we talk about proportions. So volume-wise, this will end up being about twice as much onion as it will the other things. And then I like to add, of course, my garlic. I've got some good local garlic here. This bulb is almost halfway gone. Mirepoix, the classic version, does not have onion, or rather it does not have garlic. I always use garlic because rarely do I not put garlic in the food. There are exceptions, but since 9 times out of 10 I'm using garlic. I'm going to use 2 cloves of garlic per onion, and all that I'm going to do, I don't have quite enough yet. Let me open another. This spring, I went out front and I harvested a lot of beautiful wild garlic. It was so intensely flavorful, and it was less than half the size of the others that I grew, and I have some growing out on the deck now. But the flavor was amazing. So if you see wild garlic outside in the springtime, man, harvest it. Plus you can use the tops like scallions. Okay, so I have enough garlic. Now I'm going to show you quickly another little tool that most people wouldn't even think of as a tool. I'm not going to use it right this minute, but I just want to show it to you since I'm using my knives. I have actually 2 pair of these cut-resistant gloves. If I am doing a lot of chopping, you better believe I've got these things on. When I am shredding cabbage for sauerkraut, I have these on. And when I'm grating cheese or something like that on my box grater, I've got these babies on because I have learned the hard way. I get too preoccupied with something else or a conversation or just my own thoughts, and before I know it, there goes part of my finger. Or I slice off my knuckles. So the sharp, or rather cut-resistant gloves are really, really helpful. I pull them out also when I'm teaching the grandkids how to use knives and how to cut. And I noticed while I was driving today, oh, that's right, my thumb is actually crooked. And that's because once when I was slicing cabbage for sauerkraut, Erin was home for a visit, and she and I were talking as I shredded, and all of a sudden I went, oops, there went part of my thumb. So lesson learned, we use the gloves, and also try not to talk too much. Now the other tool that actually 2 tools I'll show you that I use consistently, one definitely every day and another several times a week. The one that I use a lot is my Vitamix. I make smoothies and sauces and all kinds of things in that. And my food processor, I'm about to use the food processor to dice the onions, the garlic, the celery, the carrots. And I have had a couple of Cuisinarts, and I had, I think, a KitchenAid or a Braun, and they did not last. And I waited probably 2 years. I just kept on slicing and dicing by hand because I didn't want to invest a bunch of money into another machine that was just going to disappoint me. But eventually, after spending way too much time reading reviews, I bought this one. I didn't want to buy a Chinese brand, but I did. And it has not failed me. I've had this one now for probably 3 years, and man, it is a workhorse. So I really recommend it. And then the last thing, of course, is the immersion blender, which I absolutely use at least once a day, oftentimes 2, 3, 4 times a day. The immersion blender is actually my favorite tool besides my knives. And we'll be using that to make some mayo in just a bit here. But the first prep that I'm going to show you is just quickly, I'm going to smash my cloves of garlic to get them out of the skin. And of course, with a food processor, you do not have to be as careful, and it does not take as long. So you don't have to worry quite so much about how you slice and how you dice, because it's going to do that work for you. So I just make sure that I have all of my garlic ready. Almost there. The carrots and celery are ready. And then I will just peel and quarter my onions, and that's going to be it. And then it will be loud for about 2 minutes, maybe. So, okay, garlic's ready. Got my little pile there. And okay, I don't know if you can see me chopping or not. This is the chef's knife. It is, the brand is, oh, please remind me. Is it Mercer or is it, it's on our resource list. So whatever it is, I don't remember, but it's maybe a $40 knife. It's stainless steel. It's not carbon steel. So it doesn't hold a sharp edge for as long, but it's very easy to sharpen because stainless steel is softer than carbon steel. So it's really a decent knife for not a lot of money. You might think that $30 or $40 is a lot of money, but it's not. When you are really trying to be efficient in the kitchen and doing a lot of cooking, you want tools that make it easier for you, that work more efficiently, that save you time and effort. And that's where spending a little bit more money on a knife comes in. Again, $40 is not an expensive knife. I would love to buy a knife that is top of the line, and I don't have a few $100s hanging around to do that. So most of my knives are in the neighborhood of $40 to $80. I have a cleaver that I like, and I think I might have paid $40 or $50 for that, but my favorite knife was $70. And I've had it now for about 3 years, and it just does not let me down, and I expect that I will have it to hand down to my children. Okay, now, whew, you are supposed to glide into the onion, not push down into the onion. I didn't sharpen this knife. I was pushing down, and now my eyes are watering. With a sharp knife and gliding, I hope you can see, gliding instead of pressing. Gliding does not break the structure of the onions that release the sulfur and make you cry. Okay, so bear with me for just a moment. I'm going to dice. I'm using my dicing attachment. I need to slice, or rather cut the onions a little bit smaller.
Popped open. What have I done? Oh, I've overfilled it. That's what I've done. Okay. So I'll just open it. Ah, I did overfill it, definitely. But I'll pop it open and we'll go over to the stove and start the second part, and I'll finish this later. Okay, you can see, oh yeah, that's pretty full. Now, let me grab my little stand here. Whew. And, okay, now I'm at my stove. And I'm going to have to move my herbs and spices over. By the way, we had this discussion recently with someone in my family. Herbs are generally, well, herbs are the foliage of the plant, and spices are the nuts. Just in case you ever have somebody ask you or wonder, that's how it goes. So cinnamon is a bark, and that's considered a spice. Nutmeg is a spice, but thyme is an herb. Cumin is an herb. Coriander is a spice. Now, good pots and pans are also super important, and people often ask me what pots and pans I recommend. And there are some that we have a link to for Amazon that are perfectly fine, but in all honesty, I make no money from this. My favorite pots and pans I get at Home Goods or Marshall's or TJ Maxx. So I tell people, in all honesty, all the time, if you want good pots and pans, go to Home Goods. They occasionally have Viking. That's a great brand, and I have one or two Viking pans. But my most favorite are the Silgas, and they come from Italy. I have a whole collection in different sizes. They're expensive pans. They're expensive at Marshall's and Home Goods too, but they're about a third of the price as you would get them anywhere else. So I probably paid 50 or 60 for this size pan. The other ones that I have that I like a lot, I really do like these two, and they're much, much less expensive, are the David Burke. I have frying pans, I have stock pots, and I have little saucepans, all sizes also of David Burke. And besides that, I think they're cute. They have a cute little shape. But these are also very, very good pans. And if I could give you a link to buy them, I would, but I haven't found one. So I just suggest going to Home Goods or Marshall's for that. Now, I'm turning my stove on to medium. I have an induction burner, by the way, and people also ask me what type of heat I like to use for cooking. I've had gas, I've had a radiant electric, a couple of those, of course, and I've had an induction now for 8 years. I absolutely love the induction. They're energy efficient, they're fast, and they're so easy to clean because they're like a radiant glass. They're just a smooth top, so they're super easy to clean. I love cooking with gas, but I hate cleaning the gas stove tops. So this is way better and faster. Now, I do recommend that you don't store heavy things like glassware above your induction burners, because
I've broken 2 by dropping heavy glasses on them. I know. Oh well, we go on. So I just need to put my phone on something different for a stand so I can get into my ghee. So I've got my pan on medium, as I said, and I use mostly ghee with some olive oil for my mirepoix. I use ghee because it tastes buttery. It's really good for you. It's loaded with good nutrients like true vitamin A and omega-3 fatty acids and vitamin D, and it tastes like butter intensified. So I use a lot of ghee, including for the mirepoix, but I also do it for the garlic ginger turmeric concoction that I made last week. So if you're into Asian food also, like I am, ghee is really important for that, and gut healing as well. Ghee is medicine, and it is the foundation of my gut healing breakfast soup, which we had for breakfast and lunch one day last week because it was so good. So we recommend using our link to Simply Ghee and the code. Erin will put the code up in the notes. But you want to use good grass-fed organic ghee instead of butter, because butter has a much lower smoke point. You get a lot more smoke out of it and a lot less heat. I'm going to add a little bit of my olive oil to that also, so that I have a mixture of good fats. Okay. And then I'm going to dump. So this is getting warm and getting warm fast. So that is going to simmer, and I'm going to add the rest of it in just a moment too. It will simmer for about 20 minutes. That way the vegetables get soft, and that means you can toss them into a soup or a pan for anything you want and make whatever it is that you're wanting much, much, much faster. Let me get the rest of the onions. I'll be right back. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Okay. I'm going to leave that and come back to it. But I'll add the rest of my onions a little bit later because I don't want to waste your time. So there's that. Now, I'm just going to leave that to simmer covered. Now, the next thing that I want to do is talk stock. Stock is the backbone of every sauce, every soup, every stew, and every good gut healing protocol that there is. So I try to never, ever run out of stock. What goes into stock? I'm going to make chicken stock today. You know, chicken stock or chicken broth is called the Jewish medicine. What is it? It's considered Jewish medicine. For somebody correct me. Colds, flu, or just general health. I don't know. But anyway, it is super healing for the gut. Very soothing, full of nutrients. Stock is hydrophilic, so it absorbs stomach acids to help you digest whatever is in that soup. So it's far better even than just using, say, water. Or I use wine in a lot of things. And actually, I may use some wine today in that chicken stock. All right, so the core of that is going to be, again, I'm going to start with, sometimes I do a whole chicken. Sometimes I use the carcass of 2 or 3 or more chickens. But what I'm going to do today is use about 2 pounds of chicken legs, several chicken feet, and 2 or 3 chicken necks or backs, because there is a lot of good cartilage tissue in there, which is going to break down into colloids that are soothing and healing. And so you want to make sure that you are incorporating the skin, the bones, the connective tissue, all of that. And the parts of the chicken or the turkey or any poultry or any other critter for that matter that will make the most nutrient dense stock, that will be all of that connective tissue and skin and less the flesh itself. But when you're on a gut healing diet, you are going to want to include meat in that. So that's why sometimes I'll do just a whole chicken. It makes the meat more digestible. I do like to roast the chicken because then the carbohydrates in the skin caramelize and create a much fuller, beautiful flavor. My only problem with that is I want to eat all the skin, and then not much of it makes it into the pot. So, okay, I'm going to use 2 whole onions because I like a lot of good flavor. When people have my stock, they often comment on, why doesn't theirs taste like that? Or how come so-and-so's doesn't taste like that? And all it is, folks, is just using enough herbs and spices so that it will taste like that, whatever that is. Rich and full and beautiful is what that is. So these are just kind of medium-sized onions. I'm using 2 medium-sized onions. I have 2 stalks of celery, but I think I'll throw a third in there just for fun. And I keep the leaves on the celery. Now you don't have to chop anything. You just want to kind of break it up, break it open. And you know what? You can even throw the skins in of the onions and the garlic if you're using organic. I want some garlic. My garlic is hiding. I will usually throw an entire head of garlic in there because garlic, wow, garlic is just so good and good for you. I have one friend who cannot eat garlic. I feel so sorry for her. I haven't fed her at my house yet, but when she comes, which I hope is soon, Juliana, I hope you come to my house for dinner soon. I'm just going to have to remind myself, no garlic. No garlic in salad dressing, no garlic in soup, no garlic in the sauce, no garlic. Ah, life would be so dull without garlic. Oh, well, we'll have to add other things for flavor. Okay, again, you don't really even have to peel. And for the sake of time, I'm not going to peel everything, but I will still smash it so that the flavor is more accessible. Now, my favorite means of making stock is on the stove pot in a big stock pot. Chicken stock, I will usually simmer, never boil. Don't boil. People often refer to making stock as boiling the bones. You don't want to boil. Too much heat breaks down the bound glutamates, especially that found in the connective tissue. So when you do a higher heat, the bound glutamates become unbound. The same thing happens just with time. And so with chicken or other poultry, I only simmer it on the stove for 8 to 10 hours, no more. And then beef or lamb or pork, that I will simmer for 24 hours. If you have any problem that you know of with MSG, monosodium glutamate, then you want to do a shorter cook time. Cut it in half. And definitely there are a lot of us out there. But I have a problem with MSG, not with my stocks. I never have a problem with my stocks, but I do know people who have problems with that. So if you're one of them, I would suggest cutting the cook time down to about half, maybe. All right. I've got my onions, my garlic, my celery, my carrots. Now I want to use thyme, bay leaves, vinegar or lemon juice or wine, and some peppercorns, whatever else. I'll be right back and I'll grab that. Okay. It's all right here. All but my bay leaves. Now you can change your herbs and spices to suit whatever cuisine that you're making. For instance, my friend Sophia Eng from the Nourishing Asian Cookbook, which is definitely one of my most favorites ever, and I am supposed to be reviewing it. I haven't reviewed it yet, but I love it. Sophie has a recipe for pho, for an herb and spice blend for pho, and she makes it and packages it. So in that case, she's using things like cinnamon and cloves, and I don't remember what else, but she's going for a different flavor. What I'm doing is just, here, I'll bring it over here. Do it over here. I'm doing a really basic but delicious chicken stock. I'm using my coarse sea salt. I added about 2 tablespoons. With cooking, I rarely measure. With baking, I always measure. So that's about 2 tablespoons of dried thyme. I've got about 4 bay leaves in there. And then I'm going to add about 1/3 cup of vinegar or wine or lemon juice. Let me see if I can read this. The vinegar will add a little bit of flavor, but it will provide the acidity to help break down the bones and the flesh and all of that. So you'll get a lot more nutrient out of it if you incorporate one of these acids. Okay. Now, obviously, the other thing that we need is the actual chicken itself. So I have thawed. If you can get these, fine. If you can't, or if you're too grossed out, don't worry about it, but I use chicken feet. They're ugly. They are really ugly things. The first time I used chicken heads, which I'm not doing today, I did not have time to butcher a particular batch of chickens, and so I sent them to a friend's to butcher for me, and she didn't know whether I wanted the heads on or not, so she just left them, and I picked up my chickens, and I brought them home, and she had said, didn't know if you wanted the heads or not, so I just left them on. And I thought, okay, I've been meaning to try that. I guess now's the time. And so I had my largest stock pot, and I stuffed a couple of chickens head down into it, hoping that the kids wouldn't see it. They could see the feet sticking up, but not the heads. And I'm thinking I'm so clever. I'm typing on my computer to put up a Facebook post about how clever I am with these chickens and the chicken heads, thinking nobody's going to know. But one of my daughters was standing right over my shoulder, and I didn't know it. And there was a very loud scream and a proclamation of, I'm not eating that. She did. I said, just don't tell anybody else. And yes, you are eating it because there's nothing else. Everyone ate it and everyone was fine with it. But in all honesty, that was the only time I ever did chicken heads. Well, at least until that batch of chickens was gone. So I've got 4 chicken necks, I think 4 feet. And then instead of a whole chicken, I have, you'll see it in just a moment here. This is one thing that I will buy at Costco when I don't have my own. I buy chicken legs. And chicken legs, these are organic. They're not free range. They're not pastured. They're not what they should be, but they're fine for stock. But they've got the connective tissue and the knuckles and the skin. So I use these to make really good stock. Almost there, guys. Okay, so I've got about 8 legs in here. I would normally add peppercorns, but I didn't want to dig for them. I will add black pepper last because the black pepper will break down and you won't get the flavor if it's cooked. So you want to add it when it's done cooking. Likewise, anything in the parsley family. So you don't want to do parsley until the end. I'm going to fill this with water. And I'm also going to grab my phone charger. Because after all of this effort, the last thing that I want to happen is for my phone to die halfway through. So I had it plugged in my car, but I guess it wasn't plugged in all the way. It wasn't charging, so now it is. Okay. So I have my Instant Pot kettle filled to, there's a line, you know, it's about 1.5 inches from the top. And I'm going to pop it in and turn it on. And I'm just going to set the setting to the super broth setting, but I'm also going to add another 2 minutes to it so that I can get a little bit more out of it. Okay, so that's broth. And obviously we're not going to wait for an hour or so for it to be done, but you see the process. And here is the finished product. This batch will give me about 6 quarts of chicken stock, and that will last me for a few meals. You can't really make more than that in the Instant Pot. I have the larger one, but in a kettle, I can make 3 or 4 gallons at a time. Even a regular stock pot will make at least 1.5 gallons or 2 gallons. So I recommend filling it up and making as much as possible. And then use it for, again, soups, sauces, stews. Don't use that packaged or canned stuff. It's not real. It's not made the right way, and it doesn't have the right stuff in it. So make it yourself. It is so easy, and it's cheap. So, okay, now we're going to jump back over to the stove, and we're going to do another simple little prep thing. And again, I need to prop the phone up. I can't find my Joby, so okay. It's really handy to have another person around. But I don't have that, so here we go. So the next thing that makes meal prepping really easy is to pre-cook your meat. Now you can't always pre-cook every type of meat, but we do, again, at our house, do a lot of soups and stews, but also meatloaves and things like that. Meatloaf you cannot cook ahead. I made meatloaf for last night. It was delicious. But here I want to show you, and I'm turning my mirepoix down also a little bit. See, this is simmering away. It's getting nice and loose or soft. All right, I'm going to close that up. All right. To do the meat, I'm not going to sit here and make you watch all the way through, but I'm just going to show you 2 really simple things. Not much Not much oil left in there, but you know what I do have? I have saved the fat from a smoked pork fat belly. A pork belly, that's what it is. One of my sons loves to use his smoker, and he's getting really good at it. And we had shared a pastured hog recently. So I saved the fat from the pork belly, and it is going in the pan. And that is going to give a tremendous flavor to the meat. And it's still going to be versatile. Maybe not quite as versatile as if I only use olive oil, but it will be good. Having my phone plugged in doesn't really work well. I'm going to unplug for a moment. Okay. So let me grab my scissors. I keep three pair of scissors in my kitchen because I use them constantly and they're always disappearing. So I'm going to just brown, nothing else, 5 pounds of ground meat. I usually grind organ meat into my ground beef. Today I'm using some packaged. So I'm starting with actually Force of Nature. These are probably my last 2 packs, and it has organ meat in it. It has spleen and heart, and I don't remember what all else, but the Force of Nature does have organ meat in it. It's a little bit strong on its own, so if you're not doing something with a lot of seasoning, you're going to want to mix it. Grass-fed beef, beef liver, beef heart, and I thought it said spleen, but maybe not. So for 5 pounds total of meat, I'm going to break up 2 pounds of this Force of Nature meat, and I break it up as I put it in the pan so that it helps it not to clump. You don't really want to push down on the meat or it'll be clumpy. And you do not salt the meat while it's cooking. You salt the meat when it has browned. If you salt it too soon, it's going to make the protein kind of clump, and then you're going to have chunks instead of a nice soft texture. On with the fan. Okay. Just that up a little bit more. I'm adding a pound of ground venison. The same son who does the smoker and the smoked pork belly also is an avid hunter, and he has blessed us with so far 1 deer, 1 I think buck, and several hearts and livers, which I have used. And I'm going to use the ground venison in that. Oh, I was supposed to have ground pork also, but my husband didn't take that out. Oh well. I like to put ground pork in with the beef and the venison for more fat. More of that good saturated and monosaturated fats that everybody tells you are bad for you, but they're actually good, and it sure does taste good. But that won't be this batch. My husband must have forgotten. Since I was not home to do it myself, I'm just thankful he did this. And they did the dishes. Most of it. So I'm thankful for that. Alright, now I'm going to cook this on medium low. So my induction burner has 9, but actually 10 different settings. I have it on 4. Again, I'm not salting now. I'm just breaking it up and cooking it in that fat. And I'm going to cover it, and I will come back to it later. But I'm going to show you one more thing. How are we doing on time? Ooh, one more thing, not 2, maybe 2. You hanging in there with me yet? If you're asking me questions, I cannot see, So you might want to ask questions in the comments when the video is just live on YouTube, living on YouTube, and then I'll answer from there. When I use my phone, I just cannot see anything else. Okay. So here we go. I'm just covering that. And again, I'm just gently simmering it. I actually turned it down another notch. So that really is medium low. But with 5 pounds of ground meat browned, I have to rinse my hands. That is going to give me a lot of options. So I can take out, say, a pound of that. I'll divvy it up. Actually, I usually use 2 pounds at a time. I will divvy it up into packages. I'll freeze in 1 pound packages, and I'll keep 1 or 2 out. Then I can take my chicken stock, and I can take my mirepoix. I can take any of my spices and seasonings and my beloved Dr. Cowan's garden powder. I can add sour cream. That's always good. I can use a little wine, maybe a little red wine, and make a stew or a sauce. I can change up the spices, but I can make just about anything I want. Okay, not just about anything. I can't make it into chicken or turkey or filet mignon, but okay, I can have a really quick and easy, simple meal. Sometimes I'll shred some onions and, well, excuse me, I've got the mirepoix, but some mushrooms, and I'll add that. Even to my stock, I often add dried mushrooms. But with the meat, the mirepoix, and the stock, that is the backbone of a lot of really good, delicious, tasty, and fast meals that are also very nourishing, very nutritious. So we've got all of that going. And now the other thing that is at the core of what I do in my kitchen is mayonnaise. Right now I have about half of a brined roasted turkey that I need to debone and make turkey salad. The same with the chicken that I roasted before that, or tuna salad, or coleslaw. Anything that you want mayonnaise for, of course, including sandwiches, you just have to have mayonnaise. And please don't be buying the dupes and the Hellmann's that are made with very toxic seed oils. Please, even avocado oil, it's not good for you. It's a compromise once in a while in small amounts, but it is not a good oil to use. So I use olive oil, primarily a good olive oil, and either lemon juice or wine vinegar. Today I'm going to use wine vinegar. And I also usually add a little bit of brine from pickles or sauerkraut. So let me grab that too. And I'll show you a couple of things. Last week we made the ginger, turmeric, garlic concoction and ghee. I actually made this to give to someone else. I just use this a lot. I'm not going to show you how to make it today because you can refer to last week's video. But this is another staple that I make regularly, keep in my refrigerator, and use it constantly. And I make all of my own salad dressings, and it's fast and it's easy. It is very rare that I find a salad dressing on a store shelf that I would actually feel good about consuming, because almost all of them are made with canola, soy, vegetable, avocado, and other seed oils, which again are very toxic. And I don't care if they're called organic. They are unstable oils, which produce free radicals and cause a lot of havoc in your body when you consume them. So please just don't. And by the way, January 31st, we are interviewing Sally Fallon Morell, and we're going to be diving deep into this very topic. So hang on to that. But I make salad dressings, and they're different every time. I have a few staples. We have recipes on our recipe blog for a couple, like my glorified Caesar, which is my favorite. I said Caesar. Caesar. It's not a glorified Caesar. That would not be fun. Glorified Caesar salad. I also have a honey Dijon with beet, and I use the Dr. Cowan's beet powder for that. That is my family's favorite. This is something I whipped up just a few days ago. I had blue cheese. I was going to use it in a salad. The blue cheese was rather soft, so instead of making it or putting it on the salad, I whipped up a blue cheese salad dressing. This is not a classic blue cheese. This is more like a honey Dijon with blue cheese, and it turned out really good. I just whipped it up, and I'm thinking about how I can share with you how you can whip things up. How do you figure out how to whip things up? The basics that I'm showing you today give you a lot of liberty to whip things up. But when it comes to things like salad dressings or cakes or breads or whatever, there are some parameters and some guidelines. But for today, we're just going to do the mayonnaise. Thankfully, I am flush with eggs right now. So I'm starting, actually I'm going to start with the olive oil. For a single batch of mayonnaise, a small batch, you would use 3/4 to 1 cup of good oil. I'm going to go ahead and use 1 1/2 cups to do a double batch because we go through a lot of mayonnaise. And I may need to take the plug out of here. I do also have, maybe I'm not going to take the plug out of here because I don't know that I can get it. Okay, I'll just dump. I also sometimes use organic fresh pressed sunflower oil, but that's hard. It's hard to find good quality sunflower oil because it's not a stable oil either. It oxidizes, so I don't use that. Also, people ask about flaxseed oil. Again, it is not a stable oil. So unless you can get it from someone who presses it fresh, puts it in a dark bottle, and keeps it refrigerated, I don't recommend it. Also, while a little bit of flaxseed oil is very good for us, just a little, a lot is not. It's too high in omega-6 fatty acids. We want our 3s, 6s, and 9s to be in the proper proportion. We need more 3s to balance out an overabundance of omega-9 and omega-6. There's way too much omega-9 out there in the food world. I have a hard time reading this, but I think I'm at the 1.5. Yeah, okay, that's 1.5. Good. I don't wear my contacts. And sometimes if I don't wear my contacts and a pair of glasses, I can't read that tiny or that pale stuff. All right. Now I'm going to add 2 whole fresh pastured eggs. I have eggs in a chicken run out front, and they eat all of my scraps, or at least they're supposed to. They don't do a very good job of it. I'm going to do 2 whole eggs and 2 egg yolks. And because these eggs are small, I'm going to add another. I can save the egg whites. Whoops. I lost one. I can save the egg whites for meringues. One of our girls really enjoys making meringues and eating them. So the whites will not go to waste. I also sometimes just freeze, or rather cook them and feed them to the chickens. But again, I'm going to add an extra egg because these are small eggs. last week I had a carton that was all double yolkers. I had a lot of fun with that. Okay, so I've got 1.5 cups of oil, and in this case I have 3, but if you're using a medium-sized egg, it would be 2 whole eggs and 2 egg yolks. Now we come to the acid part, and I want a total of 4 tablespoons of acid. So I'm going to start with, you can use apple cider vinegar, fresh lemon juice is wonderful. I'm going to use white wine vinegar. And I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of pickle brine, because the pickle brine, I've got a jar full of pickle slices that I made. That little bit of brine is going to culture, the mayonnaise solution, which will make it even better for us. I can be dangerous with knives, especially when I'm trying to hurry with something. Salmon cakes are another thing, or crab cakes in crab season, that you're going to want mayonnaise for. And you know, mayonnaise is really a kitchen staple in everyone's kitchen, isn't it? But you're going to see how easy it is. And you've probably, maybe some of you watched my video on making mayonnaise anyway, that I did last year. Now, salt. Salt is the next thing. I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of Dijon mustard. You can use 2 teaspoons, 1 or 2 teaspoons of Dijon mustard. I'm just going to use 1 heaping spoonful. Now that in and of itself is wonderful. But you can have fun, and you can add things like cilantro, chives, scallions, garlic. I always put garlic in my mayonnaise. Let's do that. You can make it Asian flavored using Asian spices and herbs. You can make it Indian. You can add turmeric, maybe a little ginger. You can make it a Latino flavor using lime juice instead of vinegar or lemon juice. You can add cilantro, of course, more garlic. You can make your mayonnaise match whatever food you're wanting to use it for, and it just spices up a sandwich. So I was going to add cilantro to this, but I think I'm going to hold off because I don't want to do my entire batch with cilantro. And I'll do tacos later for dinner using the meat that I'm cooking now. And I'll just add minced garlic and chili powder and smoked paprika and cumin. Okay, so here is where I use my handy dandy immersion blender. This is, again, my favorite tool. This one only has a single speed. The one on our website that's recommended is, I think, a 3-speed, but this one is a replacement for one of mine, and it's a single speed. That's it. I have mayonnaise. I'm going to add a little bit more salt because it could use a little bit more salt. And actually, it's fine on the vinegar, but I'm going to make it a little bit more piquant. I added a splash. Whatever you're cooking, whenever you're cooking, always taste, because there are always going to be variations in intensity of a head of garlic or the flavor of a vinegar or even your olive oil. I'm using the Carapelli Organic, which is a good olive oil, and it tastes good and it's pretty mellow, but sometimes I can't get it, and then maybe the olive oil is a little too spicy. So you can adjust flavors, which is why I added. But that's it. I'm done. If I can disconnect. There we go. That's really good. And it's pretty thick. I'm going to refrigerate it. It will thicken up significantly in the refrigerator. And then I have a week's worth of mayonnaise here, depending on what I do with it. If I do chicken or turkey salad, I'm going to use half of it for that. But it's just that easy, guys. It's really not hard at all to do this kind of meal prep. The other thing that I recommend doing more like once a month is making sauerkraut or pickles. I'm not going to do that today. I've done other videos on doing that, so I'm going to skip it. But just doing the things I've shown you here saves you so much time in the kitchen. And look, I'm just going to break this meat up and stir it up. It's smelling wonderfully. And because I didn't add any spices to it, including even onion and garlic, I can do whatever I want with it when it comes to mealtime. So tonight I'll probably slice up some mushrooms and saute them in a little bit of the mirepoix that's in the pan, and I'll toss that in together with the ground meat. I'll probably add a dash of, or a dollop, or a big scoop of sour cream, and maybe I'll shred, I already have shredded cheddar cheese. That's another do-ahead thing. We take turns taking whole blocks of cheese and shredding it. So it's so simple. And this is literally going to save me probably at least 3 hours in the kitchen, because I'm not doing it in small batches. I'm doing a large amount at once. It'll be ready and waiting for me every day for whatever I want to make. So that's it. I welcome your questions. I think I'll do a little video maybe tomorrow about making smoothies for breakfast. But whatever you'd like to see, please do let me know, because I'll try to cover anything and everything that you would like. Next week, we are interviewing Lily from Hearth and Homestead. She is my favorite soap maker, even more so than myself. And she also makes the best skincare products that I've ever used, including the ones I used to make myself. We're going to talk about the importance of going back to natural and ancient skincare routines, the benefits, and we'll answer your questions. So shoot us some questions there. And in 2 weeks, I'm going to go a little bit further into what can we do with all of this stuff that we have prepared ahead of time. We'll make some good foods together. And then again, don't forget that January 31st, we'll be interviewing Sally Fallon Morell from the Weston A. Price Foundation. I appreciate her so much. She's been a friend of mine now for more than 20 years, and I'm so grateful that she has agreed to come on and talk with us. And there again, our focus will be on fats. So I hope you found this helpful this week. Thank you for bearing with me as I step into my kitchen after being gone. And hey, it worked. I have a whole lot done. And hopefully now you'll get a whole lot done too, with a lot less time and effort, and you'll reap the rewards of it. So thanks everybody. See you next week.